I've written a new novel. It's taken 3 years and it comes out in August. It's called Wild Abandon, and it's about commune in Wales. Essentially, I suppose it's a family story as well, but it's got lots of different characters, and it's about the commune has existed for 20 years, and the commune is finally collapsing after all this time. You follow partly this 11-year-old called Albert, who thinks the world's going to end, partly his sister, 17, and basically is fed up and wants to escape, and then the parents, who are like the founding members of the commune, but hate each other.
So, when you write, is there anything that's obviously true to life, your experiences? So obviously, is that apparent in this novel? Or
yeah, I mean,
are you trying to detach yourself away from things? How does that work?
The inspiration for it comes from true life, in this case, not always. In this case, it's a friend of mine who I grew up, well actually no, who I knew at university, but she grew up relatively near me in Wales, and she lived in a commune, and her parents set it up, and she had loads of, I think, a really amazing upbringing actually. The book I've written is a much kind of more negative. Inevitably, you know, you can't write a book without friction, so a lot of bad stuff happens in my book. But her upbringing was just fascinating. She was homeschooled and lived with lots of other families, and yeah.
That must have an impact sometimes on work and relationships with people. Does it at the forefront of your mind?
It's hard, yeah. It's really difficult. I think you're conscious of not wanting to shit on their input, and if they've been good enough to offer you an interview or whatever it is, you don't want to then. The problem with fictionalising something that's true is that the person who is the true life inspiration picks out the bits that are true and sees you kind of like do this very strange kind of trickery, you know? And I think it can, I don't know, I actually imagine it feels a little distressing. I have actually been, but that was a non-fiction, but I was once in a friend of mine wrote a non-fiction book about getting published, and there's various scenes with all his friends in, and a couple of scenes I turn up, and it's a very weird moment.
I think switch around.
Yeah, it just, I think it can feel strange. So I was self-conscious about using, I suppose, real inspiration, but ultimately you realise that all inspiration has to come from somewhere, and at some point you make that full leap into like not caring anymore, and it feels like its own thing, and it's a proper fiction of its own, hopefully. So yeah.
And just lastly, because I know you're going to go in soon. What sort of inspires you to write initially, and how did you get into it, or who got you into sort of writing, and actually made you push yourself actually is it always what you wanted to do?
No, not really. I wasn't the kind of child prodigy writer type. I was more into music when I was younger, and was in bands. So that was my thing, and I thought that was, like a lot of 15-year-olds, I was convinced that I was for sure going to be a rock star of the highest order. And then I realised I had no sense of rhythm. So then I started, but I suppose I was writing the lyrics then, so it never felt like kind of, it never just started, it was always something I was doing, or even writing comics when you're young or whatever it is. So I just got into it, and then I went to university and I studied it. And it was only then at university that I really registered that it could even be a career. I don't think I certainly hadn't a plan to be a writer when I was before I was 18 or 19.
Yeah. So who's been the sort of the driving force in your career so far? Who's really sort of pushed you? There must be because there's moments inevitably with any sort of art in any sort of format we all do. No good. This isn't going to get done. There's one person obviously sort of helps you push you on the way. Anybody, or have you always been sort of quite deprivating and?
Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to have this attitude that you do it because you enjoy it, and it doesn't ultimately matter what the end result is. So I always believed that I wasn't. I mean, I think it's healthy to just assume you won't get published. And, I don't know who. I don't think I had a kind of. Well, actually, I suppose my tutor Andrew Cowan at UEA was amazing, and yeah, he was really encouraging. He wasn't kind of saying like, you must go home and continue writing that novel. That motivation is, I suppose, from yourself. But he certainly was just a great guide, and I suppose he made me feel that what I was producing had some value. So I carried on feeling a bit more G'd up.
And any words of wisdom for budding novelists authors out there, writers?
Words of
What's
wisdom.
do's or don'ts?
Oh God, I've only got the really boring ones that everybody
Go
says,
on.
which is just read and write and practice and read more and write more and turn off the internet. Those are my three tips. Turn off the internet, be the big one.
That's it. Done. Brilliant. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Thanks for that.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.